What is the Wendigo? In Algonquian indigenous mythology, the Wendigo, also spelled Wendigo or Wedico, is a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit that preys on humans during the long, brutal winters. It is associated with insatiable hunger, isolation, and madness. Traditionally, a person could become a Wendigo by practicing cannibalism, even in desperation, being overcome by greed or selfishness, encountering or being possessed by the spirit of a Wendigo. It's described as a gaunt, corpse-like creature with glowing eyes, rotting skin, and an emaciated frame. Some stories describe it growing larger the more it eats, its hunger never satisfied. Wendigo Psychosis, a real psychological condition? Wendigo Psychosis was once considered a culture-bound syndrome, a mental illness specific to a cultural context, reported among some Cree, Ojibwe, and Saulteaux peoples during the 17th to 20th centuries. It involved an intense craving for human flesh, despite access to food, a deep fear of turning into a cannibal, social withdrawal, depression, and in some cases, violence. Victims would often warn others they felt possessed and beg to be restrained or even ended to prevent themselves from harming loved ones. The case of Swift Runner, 1878. The most notorious true story of Wendigo Psychosis is that of Swift Runner, a Cree trapper living near Fort Saskatchewan. The winter of 1878 to 79 was harsh, but Swift Runner had ample food supplies. Despite this, he ended and ate his wife and 6 children. When he was arrested, he confessed and claimed to be overtaken by a Wendigo spirit. Witnesses said he'd been acting strangely before the undoings, pacing, speaking nonsense, and expressing terror about what he was becoming. He was convicted and hanged in 1879, the first government-sanctioned execution in that region of Canada. His case was widely reported and is still used as a chilling example of how folklore and psychosis can intertwine. Horror in the Tree Line, near Moosonee, Northern Ontario, February 2024. Day 1. Julie Lambert drove the last hour in silence. The kind of silence that makes you hear the hum of blood in your ears. She'd taken a month-long leave from her job in Toronto, a burnout break. Her therapist called it, "Go somewhere quiet," they'd said. "Reconnect with the land, your roots." Her grandfather's old hunting cabin, 20 kilometers outside Moosonee, seemed perfect. It hadn't been used in years, but it was still standing. Mostly, she left her phone on airplane mode. No service this far north anyway. The cabin smelled of dry rot and ash. Wind moaned through the cracks in the roof. A family of mice had made a nest in the cupboard. Still, there was something comforting about being this alone. Just snow, trees, and sky. That night, she built a fire and fell asleep on the cot, wrapped in wool blankets. The cold still found the edges of her skin. But something else did too. In the hour before dawn, she sat up, heart racing. She could have sworn she heard knocking, not on the door, but from the trees outside. Slow, deliberate, then silence. Day 3. Julie began hearing footsteps in the forest. At first she thought it was a fox or deer, but these steps were two-legged, heavy, pacing in wide, patient circles around the cabin. Once, she opened the door quickly, hoping to catch sight of it. Nothing but falling snow and long black trees. She started burning more wood at night, not for heat, but light. The dark outside the windows felt closer than it had the first night. Inside, she'd unpacked some of her grandfather's things. There were traps, an old rifle, and a journal full of sketches. She flipped through it idly until she found a page marked with charcoal, a tall, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and stretched limbs, standing beside a spruce tree. He had written one word under it. It waits. Day 5. The forest was different now. Still dead quiet, but she felt watched. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was expectant. She found tracks around the cabin, bare human footprints, but the toes were too long, the stride too wide. She measured them, 7 feet between steps. That night, she awoke to scratching at the door. She didn't open it, just held a rifle and whispered her grandfather's name like a prayer. In the morning, the scratches were still there, and on the snowbank beneath the kitchen window, something had drawn a symbol, a circle with a jagged spiral in the center, like a mouth with too many teeth. Day 7. She dreamed she was starving. Her stomach clawed at itself. Her skin cracked from dryness. And the wind outside sang in a voice she recognized, her own, echoing and stretched thin. She woke with her hands bleeding. She'd been scratching her arms raw in her sleep. She considered hiking back to the road. But when she opened the front door, she saw it for the first time. It stood between the trees, just far enough to stay blurry. 7, maybe 8 feet tall. Its head was wrong. Too narrow, too long, like something that had never been human trying to remember how humans looked. She blinked. It was gone. The firewood was soaked with snow that night. The fire barely stayed lit. Something knocked again, only once this time. She whispered, "I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry." Day 10. Her food ran out yesterday. She tried to boil bark and lichen. It made her stomach twist. The wind spoke clearly now. It said things she didn't want to hear. Things about how good warm meat would taste, how easy it would be to let go, just for a little while. She couldn't sleep. The journal sat in her lap, open to the last page. Her grandfather had written, "It lives on hunger. It becomes you. If you see it and survive, it's too late. The cold does not kill. The voice does." Day 12. Julie was found by a pair of local hunters near the road, barefoot and frostbitten, but alive. She was speaking in 2 voices, one hers, the other low and scraping like bark on stone. They wrapped her in blankets. She bit one of them hard enough to draw blood. At the hospital in Moosonee, she stopped speaking altogether. Refused food? Eventually. She asked the nurse if the windows locked. When asked what she'd seen out there, she only said, "It's wearing me now, waiting for someone else to come." Epilogue. The cabin is still out there. Locals say the trees never regrew where the thing had stood. They call it the silent patch. No birds, no animals. Just trees that lean a little too far inward, as if listening. And every February, when the snow is deep and the sky is pale and empty, someone hears knocking on their door just after midnight. Always 3 knocks. Always slow. And always followed by silence that stretches into forever. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for your support.